Good afternoon, Gossip Talk Show's family. Is Nomsa here at Gossip Talk Show's Find Your Own Voice late from within. So with me today, I am with the Shireen Love Group. How are you, Shireen?
I'm good, Namsa, and you?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. So let's see what Shireen has for us, guys, topic-wise. So the topic today is keeping love alive in the midst of conflict. We often think that love and conflict exist on opposite ends of a spectrum, but that when we are arguing, frustrated, or not seeing eye to eye, love somehow leaves the room, but love doesn't vanish. Just because we're hating, in fact, conflict often rises because love is present. We care enough to feel affected, invested, and vulnerable. So the real question is, how do we keep that love visible and accessible even when we are hurting, tired, or overwhelmed? That's a very, what was in your mind, Sharon, when you chose this topic?
Mm. Well, really, I've been spending. There's so much conflict around, isn't there, at the minute? And just now we've got the shifting or the change that happened in Gaza and Israel. So I was just really sitting there and thinking about, the idea of conflict and how do we resolve conflict? What is it that we need for conflict resolution? What are we forgetting? And what do we need to do to lean into that happening? And so not just for a relationship, although everything is about a relationship, isn't it? It's whether you have this good relationship with yourself and whether you have a good relationship with someone else. And so I was thinking in the sense of how can we as a global collective and that's really where I was thinking when I thought of this topic. Yes, this is, when we think about a relationship with our immediate partner, this is something that's kind of small, but when we look at it from a really big perspective, then we start to realize what we think about what is the real tool that we need to cultivate, to grow, to bring into being in an active way, and maybe unlearn what isn't true in the old ways um, of conflict negotiation, the old ways of, we set boundaries in a particular kind of way. It's more about how do we transform the boundaries so that we just allow love to flow. So that was what was really kicking in for me. And I was kind of thinking more in the idea that there is this the idea that conflict, when we have conflict, often what happens is we become so attached to our own opinion, our own stance, that we forget that other people are suffering, right? So when we're in conflict, we want to have our own place, we want to be there. And often when we're in a relationship, this is probably one of the pivotal aspects that stops us from reconnecting in some way. And I was spending a little time in thinking, well, I have been obviously paying attention to the empathized power and most of us work when we do some inner child work. We look at trying to build this sense of empathy within ourselves so that we can use that empathy to help others. And I was thinking in the sense, because I had been listening to a podcast where we were talking about how to activate the empathy power, that it's strong enough to be able to stand the battering that could come towards us. How can we just allow it to just kind of filter through and not be affected by it? So I was really spending a little time in thinking about that. And the problem is, I think what often happens is people think that when we have conflict, um, you know, you got to think about conflicts. It's conflict is where we are attached to the lovingness of the idea that we have, but we hide the love that we have for someone else because it's so focused on what it is that we want, right? So we may love someone dearly, but we can still hide that love while we're still trying to put our own needs, our own emphasis on something. So I was looking at the idea that it just doesn't disappear. It just stays hidden. And so maybe when we're sitting in the idea of having a fight with someone, maybe we need to look, where is love hiding in this moment? How can I find love in this moment so that I can reconnect with this person? We know that longevity absolutely is increased if we have love around us. We know that stress is diminished. We know illnesses get better. We know so many things happen when we feel loved and we feel safe, because feeling loved makes us feel safe, right? If we don't feel loved, we don't feel safe. So we need to feel safe in order to start thriving. So we have to look, where is love hiding, so that we can go seeking safety in order to resolve the conflict. So that was where I was kind of going with the topic. So how does that sound? How does that resonate for you?
I think you are right, Shireen, when you say we hide when we like during conflict we hide that love gets hidden because we focus on our needs, how we can fulfill our needs, or simply some people and how they can win the argument and stuff. I think you have a big point there, but I think the truth is when you are having conflict with someone, if you focus on that situation and took your me out and just focus on solving the problem, and I think people will get somewhere when it comes to problems. But unfortunately, that's not how the world is. That's not how human beings feel. It's all about me, how what I can get, how, and all these things that people do. So I think that is really, really important. Like if you look at my case with social services, I was thinking about it before I saw this topic. Like my daughter, she's the one who is getting hurt in all this process. But the people that are involved, they actually know that she has a wonderful, wonderful life. So I'm thinking, why are they actually doing this? Because even her own family, they are actually entertaining it. And because, like there's this thing where we call the bloodline,
Mhm.
like where, because they're not thinking that this thing it could affect the other generation if it stays under their name. So I'm not sure if they thought that through, that actually it, maybe it's a lack of knowledge, because the Bible says people perish because of lack of knowledge. So I was thinking that actually she's busy doing amazing things and stuff. Um, the day they recorded this social services, she came here and I said the day they recorded they did this. It was the day that she got scholarship for this, she's got a scholarship for that, and the woman she's looking at me. She goes to their room, and then their room is like covered with trophies and stuff. So I'm like, you see, I'm always on the road with these kids. So one time I was like, it's me who should actually report the neglect because no one looks after me. I was like, no one actually looks after me. I'm a mom. So if we took all this, maybe her dad as well should report the neglect, because we get to entertain the kids, but no one. But then now I had to look at the situation that people not thinking that in a long-term run, how is it gonna affect the bloodline? Because when their children get married, it could actually reappear, resurface because of the
Mm.
past. So, but they're not thinking, and also like you mentioned the Gaza and things like that. I think when people are solving mostly politics, when they're solving problems, they're not really solving problems based on the future. There is all about what they can get through that pain, through people's pain. What they is there anything that people can get? They don't really think about other people or even a relationship. If you like as a coach, like I'm sure you've had these problems where sometimes you want to whack someone in the head. They're coming to you, they've got problems. Hannah, you're listening, you're standing there listening to what the problem is. And then you trigger something, they're like, oh, I've never thought of that.
Mm.
Am I looking selfish or what? And things like that, or sometimes they're just fighting. But what the conflict is about is really nothing compared to what
Mm.
they have. Because when you have life, when you have good health, it's really, really more than you didn't get me my present, you forgot my present, my birthday present, or you forgot our wedding anniversary. But the life, good health, you may
Yeah.
find that is more important. For me, I always say, okay, if someone forgets my birthday, Shireen, instead of me conflicting, getting angry, I just go online and get even more expensive birthday. So they don't forget next time. I'm like, okay, honey, you forgot my birthday this time, but it's gonna cost you maybe £200 extra. So next time you don't forget it. But some people they just fight and fight and fight. It's
Mm.
just learning the power of negotiating and and just having fun around it because
Mm.
it's just the life that we have. Having
Yeah.
you at Ngozi talk shows you're present. It means a lot to me than what you didn't do. So if I can put it in a simple way, and having a man in your life, having a woman in your life when you fight, if they didn't have an accident, if they're still alive, I think this means a lot. Then, okay, you did this, you did this. So, human being,
Yeah. Yeah, I think oh it's such a an interesting topic because it can go in so many directions, can't it? This topic. And I mean, certainly, and I want to really come back to this idea of the bloodline, the genetic blueprint that follows as a result, and
yeah,
maybe just to lean into that a little bit, um, and maybe have a look at that because I was, well, I did do an article. I reposted something on Facebook, which was really about, grandparents being estranged from their grandchildren, and of course that's a terrible pain. And there's so many things, but what I was really paying attention to was this whole journey that happens from basically where does it all start? And it all starts, that kind of pain, that kind of thing that happens is because we get wounded, right? And we grow up and we may have been wounded through childhood, we may have been wounded through war, we may have been wounded because of divorce, whatever the wounding is. When we go into a conflict, we keep reactivating these wounds. And these wounds, because it feels so personal when we're in a conflict, if we're unable to kind of work around it, it feels very, very personal. And so we take the hump, right? We got to defend. Or we might retreat. That may be another way. But generally, if we're going to go into an argument, we're going to fight, right? And so we end up causing a lot of damage. And what happens is we don't necessarily get to resolve things in the way that would lead to a good enough resolution. And unfortunately, we all carry the wounds. So for some people, they may let go and not think about it and just move forward. Other people, they sit there and they ruminate and ruminate and ruminate. And so they keep rebuilding those neural networks that then cause them to react in that kind of way where they feel as though they're always being persecuted. They may still be fighting, but they still feel persecuted. And so you have these attachment wounds that are there. Now you have parents, every parent in this universe will have had some wounding at some time, right? And that means if they have, we don't get the book of parenting given to us when most people have children. So those parents that, or those people that got married and then had children are still wounded. And so they bring the wounds, first of all, the eggs will carry the wound, the sperm carries the genetic imprint, comes together, that child carries that genetic imprint. Now, if a parent has come from a wounded family, they may have poor attachment styles. So they may not be able to be open-hearted and loving in the way they do. Say they go through the divorce, they get so angry that they may actually try and play their children off. You may find that the children are caught in the middle with the power struggle that's going on with parents, but it's the children that suffer. So we have to look where, when we're in these difficult situations, we've got to look, where is love? What does love tell me to do here? Where is it hiding? What is the truth that's going on here? Because if we can't do that, we can't heal and we can't stop the fallout that's going to follow through in generation to generation. And mark my words, we talk about 7 generations of which you will carry through stuff from 7 generations unless it's been healed, right? There's so much evidence to show what happened in the First World War or Second World War and some of the stuff that we're noticing about illnesses in people now as a direct result of grandparents having experienced the war. So we know it happens. So the only way, and the only way we can stop things is, first of all, we've got to desensitize that emotion. We've got to bring it down. We've got to question, how come I'm arguing in this situation? So if you kind of, you've got past the honeymoon period in a relationship and all of a sudden you're fighting, be aware that maybe because now you feel safe enough to fight. You feel safe enough to be able to voice your opinion. Maybe you grew up in a household that people were very controlling and you couldn't really voice your opinion. Just look at it and go, wow, hey, hey, I'm safe. I can actually do this and I can do something about it. I can change this so that my child isn't like this, that my child isn't born with these kinds of hereditary conditions where they may be more anxious, right? So you're more likely to re-regulate your nervous system, which means then that you will not pass that negative part of the blueprint onto your kids. So yeah, those were the things. And I suppose because I'd had 3 conversations with people that had experienced, as grandparents had experienced being estranged from their grandchildren, and also the other way where grandparents have been too imposing on a family. It's just really looking at that, and that's what I was thinking of. They all love each other. This is the problem. They all love each other, but it's the way the love isn't the right way, right? So they're imposing their will and not really being truly loving, and it's hidden. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you're saying, Shireen. I was listening like at the part of a honeymoon period where you go on a honeymoon and then all of a sudden start fighting. Pastor James was preaching and he was like, I think people should stop wearing white weddings. The brides should stop wearing gowns and they should wear combat for soldiers. And said, honey, we are at war. There is no honeymoon period. We are at war because number one, the enemy wants to take your marriage. You've got in-laws that want to destroy your marriage. You've got friends that wants to destroy your marriage. So it was like everybody should forget about this white gown and just say, honey, we are at war. This marriage has to be protected. When they
Yeah.
say I do, no wedding, and I just laughed and laughed. It was like, because there's no such thing as a honeymoon. You go and celebrate your honeymoon. When you come back, the war begins. It was like the in-laws are after you. It's like it was like my parents could be after my wife, or her parents after my marriage, or my family, or anybody after my marriage. So we could just say, war is began. Getting married into a war. I think you have a point there, Shireen, that mostly I have seen people who go through divorce. It's like when I was going through like separating with the Hope's dad. Honestly, I had to stop talking with people because no one was giving me the advice to say, no, so we are there for you. Everybody was like, make sure you take him for what he has. I was like, what's all this about? No, I was like, and they were like, make sure you take everything for your daughter. I was like, but I'm not really taking everything from. I was like, I got confused. I was like,
Mm,
why do we get married in the first? Why do we enter relationship in the first?
yeah.
And why do we get married? That I, as a woman, have to make sure I take a man for, honestly, for everything that he has. I find, because me normally I don't talk, but then I was like, decided to confide in people. And then you're like, make sure, like, even at work, like, they were like, make sure you take him for everything. No one, don't play here. You're not here to play. Take everything, what he has. I ended up going and hire a psychologist to go and talk to the psychologist because I was being traumatized. I got confused.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got confused, Shireen, but then with the psychologist, what I got from her, it was like to put my daughter's needs first before my needs. And that was the best advice that woman she
Mm,
has ever gave me. She was like, when you all are fighting, putting all your needs, what didn't get, what didn't happen, what this, it was like your daughter, she's getting hurt. So I had to put my daughter first. It was no longer about how much your father has, how much we can get. We
mhm,
lived in a big mansion where you enter, you use a remote control, and the people, when they are passing, there's a garage opposite. When people are passing, they come and look at the house, flowers, growing flowers. But we had to come to Henley and lived in a two-bedroom apartment. And my friends could not understand. But then I was like, this is, when you go, I was like, I'm going through pain. Her dad is going through pain, and my daughter is going through pain. But this apartment is just perfect for us.
mm,
And also, and I was like, and then I was like, God, what can I do moving forward? It was like, take your child to a private school. You've done the right thing. So I had to take my daughter to a private school and living in a two-bedroom apartment.
mm,
Because if I had listened to people, her father would have ended up with the depression, would have ended up, I don't know how would have ended up, or I would have
mm.
ended up with the depression, going forward to court. And I was like, I had to lay down my own law. I was like, okay, you are in my family tree. You father and you daughter, you're in my family tree. You Nomsa, you are in my family bloodline family tree. So if I'm fighting you guys, it means I'm fighting my family. So I
Mm,
refuse to fight nothing. And I'm moving on with my life. If I had to go and share a room with someone to make sure that my daughter is happy, I will do it.
mm.
Honestly, I just refuse to fight it, but through that pain, I saw, because it has Nick siblings have not got any children. Everybody just chipped in and they were like, okay, how much do you want me to pay for the school? Or how much do you want me to pay? I don't have kids. So, this is our daughter. I was like, oh, okay. So everybody, it was like everyone, it just came together as a family just to be part of that. And they're still, even today, they're still being part of it because to them is their child. They don't have children. But I
Yeah.
didn't act on my selfish reasons because me, I got scared. Take him for everything. I was like, my mom will crucify me for that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, that's stemming from fear, isn't it?
Yeah,
That kind of mindset is a real lack mindset, and it's not a mindset that is imbued with love, right?
no,
Because one of the two things is, you know, uh, and I know there are lots of reasons for divorce. There are, and that may in itself be what really is fueling a lot of what people are giving, the advice that people have given you, was because they've known about bad divorces and terrible things. But only you know the truth of what your
yeah,
marriage was, right?
yeah,
Only you know the truth of what that man is and who he is, right? So and at that point, it's only when you kind of go, right, what is my priority here? My priority is we co-created this child, right? This
yeah,
child came to us as a unit, right? And as a unit, we are still equally responsible for her. So that's where the priority lies, right? It doesn't lie on any kind of comfort or any kind of anything else except for what she needs, because you are an adult, you can take care of your own needs, right?
yes,
She can't. And
yeah,
there's also the thing is, if you're going to be in separate areas, living separately, then it's equally fair that both of you have a nice accommodation for her to go to, right? So it's almost unreasonable to expect that someone would often in divorces, men do lose out quite a lot, often, and that's the way the law is. But often men are ending up in tiny little flats and a whole house goes to a mother. But if someone dies, a house may have to be sold. But in a divorce, that's not the case. I think that there needs to be a little more around that as a topic, as a subject anyway. But I do think that we need to look at what will be available to that child so that she can be happy in both environments. If they're going to move between both, then that's what we need to do. And I think it is really, as long as the child is safe, as long as the dad is not abusive,
yeah,
and there's no issue about safety, then it would be really awful to keep them separated, because they
yeah,
each, both sides of the partnership bring something new into that person's life, and they need to, if she's going to have a relationship later on with, depending on what whether she's bisexual or heterosexual, homosexual, whatever, it doesn't matter. She needs to know how to relate to someone else other than just her primary parent, right? She needs to be able to develop those skills. And she needs to be able to develop them through you and how you relate to her father.
yeah. And when the social services came the other day, she was asking questions. I said, listen, me, I'm not silly. I don't fight nothing. Even if I separate with the men, I fight nothing. Because if I fight, I end up looking after the child myself. I
Mm.
did not make this child on my own. So I zip it. Is it easy? It's not easy. I have to go to therapy to find things very easy so I can cope. But you look after your child. You made this child, so you're not going to leave me to make this child. So I was like, that's where people make mistakes. So I'm not going to fight nothing. So I'm just going to watch people doing what they do best.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that is really, really important. Is it easy to actually, when you're arguing with someone during conflict, is it easy to actually put your knees on the side and really say, okay, let me just focus on this? I don't know. It's not easy. For me, I don't find it easy. Even when I'm talking about the decision that I had to make with my daughter and to say, okay, this is the life that we're going to choose to do, doing the right thing. Was it easy? No, sometimes I felt like I wanted to vomit. It wasn't easy.
Mm. Mm.
Even my friends, they couldn't understand it. I think they thought maybe I was bonkers or something. They were like, maybe you need to go to the doctor. How can you leave a mansion and coming to live? Of course, the hand is nice and coming to live in a two-bedroom apartment. And then I said to them, that mansion had three people in it. It was a covenant of three people. But that covenant is broken now. So now Nomsa had to find ways to move forward with her life without anybody's attachment. So I need to heal my heart. So how am I going to heal my heart if I'm going forth, going to court looking for money? So let me pay for something that I can afford. And this apartment, and also I was like, do you know how long it took me to clean the house if I was to clean the house, Shireen? 4 hours. Yes, it
No.
was
Mm.
big. And then when I come here, apartment half an hour, I'm done. I'm like, hallelujah.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Honestly, I was like, I always wanted to have a big house, but this apartment is we actually we're happy. So we were so happy, me and my daughter. We're really, really happy. And even the people that are interfering, they don't understand what happiness is. You know, when you fight with conflict. Me, I just decide to go quiet sometimes. I've learned this when I began my fasting. And I actually was like, when we fight, what do we fight for? We're actually fighting against each other. And I was like, when I'm fighting someone I love, it means I'm fighting my feelings, I'm wounding myself.
Yeah.
I as well apologize instead of wounding myself. Maybe just sit down and come up with a solution with this person that I'm dating, or even if it's a family member. Because when I was like, when you look at life and you're like, was I that? Is that what
Mm.
happens when I do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's sometimes like, when you're coaching somebody and they come and they tell you their problems and you're on the other side and you're like, I never see life this way. We constantly fighting each other, sending each other to the hospital, to the doctors, depression, because we don't like somebody sometimes we
Mm.
fight them, or because this person didn't do what we like, we just fight them. I was like, I ain't doing that no more. I honestly, Shireen, I had to divorce that. And people sometimes don't understand it, but I hope his daddy came back and said, no, sir, uh, I guess I couldn't understand you before, but now I do. I think I'm following your footstep. And I
Mm.
was like, everything that people do, sometimes fighting and argument and going under the pillow, it does not make sense.
Yeah. 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 And I think for people to understand is that when we go into that fight, our whole system becomes dysregulated. We
Yeah.
cannot hear and we cannot access um, reason when we are in a stressed state. It's very, very, very difficult to override that those self-survival strategies, right, that we develop. So we have to find a way that we can tap into that will take us and bring us and make us self-regulate very quickly. Because we can, if we don't, we won't hear, right? And like you said, I had to go and pray. I had to step away from the noise to be able to make a good decision,
Yeah.
right? You had all these people yap, 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 yapping. They were giving you, so much confusing information. You, that confusing information was actually not your truth.
No.
And that's why you were getting confused, because it was not your truth. And when we don't get confused when we're with our truth. Never. We get confused when other people start telling us, and we're standing there, we're now going into that indecision. But when we get to the place where we can be in that truth, like you went right to the psychologist, and the psychologist said to you at that time, one focus, your daughter,
Yeah.
right? So whatever comes after that would be in relationship to, in a negotiation with that primary focus. Like, right, we're going to be here. Maybe we're going to move out, but I need to have money for my daughter's education. I need to have money for that. That's what your responsibility is going to be, right? You may not be living with her, but you're the father, so this is what you're going to have to do. Right. So that's what you did. So you've made agreements that came from a different place. And that's really what we've got to think about when we're in the middle of an argument, is really we've got to think if we are in the middle of an argument, one, if we can reframe it and say, well, thank God I'm safe and I can have this argument and maybe lighten it up, that's okay. But if you're not, you've got to start looking at other resources in that moment in time so that you can do that. And one simple way is, where's love hiding? What does love want me to do? Are the things, I love this human being. How come I'm doing this to them? It must be
Yeah.
hurting them greatly. It's hurting me. How is it hurting them? So that we can start to develop a way of being empathic, right? Because when we aren't asking that kind of question, we can't then ask the next ones, which are the things. I'm sorry I raised my voice. Or, tell me how I can speak so that you can hear me. Right? Maybe the way I'm talking is what's causing your triggers. It's just these are the things that are really important, because those are the things that allow other people to feel heard. And in that moment, conflict often comes down pretty quickly the moment someone feels heard. Because remember, most of the time, and the conflict is because nobody's hearing us. And those are the old wounds, right? The old wounds of feeling unloved, feeling hard done by, feelings of whatever wounding we had as a child and whatever beliefs we have about the world. So yeah, one of the good things is to really just put your hand on your heart and say, okay, I love this human being and I'm being really nasty right now. I know I'm enjoying it, but I'm being really nasty right now. Okay, is this really necessary? By having an anchor in some form gives you a way to bring you back into your body. That's the quickest way to self-regulate. Actually, quicker than taking a deep breath. Because we're actually feeling it, we don't have to take the breath. We'll often end up taking the breath straight away when we do that. But it's enough of an anchor that holds us saying, hey, hold on a minute, because it actually pushes us back slightly so that we have to take a view that's very different, right? And that's a very useful technique or a way to work. Another could be is just really just stop and sit down and just say, look, I am going to listen, but give me a minute. Give me a minute because I'm angry and I don't know why I'm angry. Let me find out and then I can tell you. Because I think a lot of the time we don't know what is really making us angry. And until we ask ourselves what it is and find out for ourselves, we can't tell somebody else what it is. So, for example, my partner might come into and he does this, and I know, and it just really gives me a hard time when he walks in and I'm busy cooking something in the kitchen. I've got it on the stove, and he'll say, "Isn't it time for supper?" And I'm kind of going, "But I'm already doing it." And I can feel I'm really getting and actually all it is because it makes me feel like it takes me back to a child, right? So when we understand that, we can go, okay, this is just my child, my wounded child kicking in, and
Yeah.
it wants to scratch and defend itself. No, 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 no. Let's just step back a minute. So, you know, we don't need to go into spaces where we wound people. We really can. And I think, when I think about the Gaza issue and that, I'm hoping that people will look at how can they re-regulate the population so that they start to see a different way of being. Because often what happens when people have been moved aside or ousted is they end up not learning the lesson they need to learn.
Yeah.
They carry the wound, right? Instead of going, okay, why did this happen in the first place? What was the thing I need to keep in mind? We need to go back to go forward, actually. What happened there when that argument started? What happened there? What happened just before that then culminated to make this happen, right? All of these things. If we don't do that soul reflection, we're never going to be able to have peace in the world. But we'll never have peace in our relationships if we don't go back and back and back. Okay, what happened just before then that led this? Oh, right, what happened there? Oh, that happened. When we can do these collective happenings, we get more understanding about a truth of what we need to do for the future. And once we are able to do that, then we can co-create for that. I think it's quite a challenge to do it, but if once you've finished your argument and you've said, okay, sorry, I really think is such an important thing is to reflect over what happened, what caused it, where is your part in the deal, so that you can truly take ownership of what you need to take ownership of. If that means you've got to go and desensitize for some form of past trauma, do it. Do it for the sake of your relationship. Because those traumas carry and they perpetuate, and we need to bring love to everything that we do.
I I think, Sharon, you have a point there when you say, where is your part of the deal? Because everything that we do, you have to ask yourself, where have I contributed to this? I watched this woman, this coach on Facebook, and she was like, everything we do, people become jealous of you. There's part of you that has contributed to that jealousy for somebody to feel jealous of you because you work hard, you do this, you do that, making sure you have a sleepless night and making sure that you work, you get the results. But somebody else get jealous, so that means you have contributed in that. I was like, actually, she's telling the truth. And she goes, even with your beauty, you buy makeup, you put this fake hair and all these things, and somebody sees this perfect nomsa and they become jealous. And she was like, that's you contributing by that beauty. So she was like, sometimes when people are being jealous, we overreact to things. You have to think and say, hang on a minute, how have I contributed to this that is making this person react this way, respond with love to them? So it's like, oh, she makes sense. So since then, when someone is actually reacting, I always say, okay, let me find out why is this person behaving the way. And you find that is actually there's part of them that is making them react the way they are reacting because they don't feel that they are enough or
Mm,
it is some part of something. And I also like when you say the moment someone feel hard in that conflict, you come to a resolution with things. I think that is really, really important to make sure that we actually stop and make sure that people just listen when someone speaks. I think it's
mm.
important to listen to that person, listen to understand and not to respond.
Yeah.
Because normally we listen, we want to give advice, we're ready to defend ourselves. We're ready to do instead of just listen with everything. So I think
Mm.
that is really, really important. And I also comes to my home as well. I said to these people like myself, because um, I've done psychology, so I've implanted the psychology to my children. And these kids, you can't neglect these kids. My children, you can't neglect them. They tell you what they want. Honestly, they tell you what they want, and they tell you if they are not happy, they feel you're not giving them time, they'll tell you. Or whatever, however they feel, they'll tell you. Or sometimes if they just want some me time, they will tell you that, okay, mommy, I need some me time at this minute. They will just tell you. So I was like, I wish this person knew what I gave birth to. So it's just having that understanding, or maybe I know also when I was watching this social work, the poor social worker, she's writing her notes, and I was like, what are these people doing? Social services in the United Kingdom is actually created to help those who are in need of it. And now they're wasting the woman's time. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to her. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm wasting time. She's wasting her time. Poor woman. And I was like, sometimes you could see she when she wanted to come to me, she kept putting the appointment. She's like, Noms, I've got an emergency. Like she'll say I'm on the way, and she's like, I've got an emergency. You are not emergency. I've got an emergency. I gotta go. So like, and then I realized that she's realized herself that this is just a waste of time, but she has to do it. And then I was like, we, in the UK, people are so blessed. You have these in South Africa now, we have benefits as well, but we didn't have them before. And we even have a housing benefits, housing as well, don't we? And before it's a luxury that people didn't have. So I was looking at it, I was like, in the United Kingdom, there are benefits, there's this free social services, there's this thing that people get, but they are actually abusing it
Mm,
because they it's just a lack of knowledge to say if I do this, what are the consequences of moving forward or in the past, or what would happen tomorrow. It's the same thing with the relationship. When you are in a relationship with someone, you have to think about the consequences of that
mm,
person. Because if we put our feelings before anybody else, that's when we go wrong. But if we say, okay, I'm going to put my feelings on that side, and I'm gonna listen to this person without judging or anything. Just gonna listen what they have to say. Sometimes they might saying things in a selfish way or things like that, but just that time of listening, having being able to sit there and listen to someone, I think is really, really important. And even during conflict as well, and thinking about what brought this what brought us together as human beings. It was love. Do we actually appreciate that love? And also, also what I thought as well when all these things started, and I said, I wonder why God actually crucified. God judges people. Sometimes He put judgment on death because we don't really appreciate this life that we have. Do we really appreciate it, Shireen?
Well, I think we appreciate it in moments, not necessarily the whole of time, right? I think that's probably the art of proper living, mindfulness living, is to be able to learn how to appreciate every given moment. Well, it's a challenge because our thoughts travel, right? Our thoughts are not
Yeah.
always going to be on the same thing, and if we were to do that, we probably wouldn't do much. Because it would take a lot of our time and a lot of our neurological attribute to be able to focus just on that. But if we do focus enough times during the day, we build that resource, that neurological software that allows us to live in that state of grace, even if we're not really conscious of it. I think that's the key in that. Yeah, I really appreciate, and I think it's really important is that contribution. What's our contribution? I love that you brought that example of someone maybe being jealous of you or seeing you and you doing hard work and whatever's going on and they're jealous. And there are two things there, and there's two caveats, because remember, it is always about both sides. It's never just one. So if someone is jealous, if you're out there shining your light, what you do is you show the dissonance between them not shining their light and you, right? So it becomes like this great big void that they can't see, that they almost can't reach. And that is really hard for some people, which is probably why they get jealous and have negative feelings, is because it automatically puts them into that place, right? Just because of the fact that they see that difference and it's so big, that gap. And at the same time, someone who's out there shining their light, they are also got to be responsible in the way that they show up, right? The way that they share, the way that they give. So the giving needs to be different maybe from what they might have done before. So it's paying attention to what's my contribution in how do I bring people to my level, right? And the act of bringing them up. And for someone that's feeling the jealousy is how do they move themselves? So that's what I'm kind of thinking when I think about what's your contribution. So I think it's really important to really stipulate that when we talk about our contribution. What was it? I said to someone, oh yes, it was the other day, I said to someone when they were talking a little bit about, which was this unfortunate event I was talking about, where they were talking about the school, and something that was going on in the school that the school should have taken responsibility for some of the stuff that was going on with this child. And the mother was starting to feel guilty and said, I've moved more to taking self-responsibility. And I said, yeah, but you don't take all the responsibility, right? You were only the person that didn't know, right?
Yeah.
You didn't know. You had limited resources. They were the experts. So therefore, they should have taken a bigger percentage of the responsibility. So just in actually apportioning the responsibility can be very valuable to someone who's feeling overwhelmed with responsibility, right? And responsibility that isn't really theirs to take. So I think it's really useful to be, and really only when we have a regulated neurological system or when we have the capacity to bring ourselves back to ourselves so that we can hear the deeper truths, only then will we be able to really find love, right? We can sit in love when we're in that space. And and you've done positive intelligence, that actually it is about that part of the brain, that's the right side, that big part of the brain, that really is about our sage, our wisdom keeper, are. And we need that wisdom keeper to be online a lot of the time, so that when we get flipped, she or he can kick in very fast and help us in that process. So yeah, that I mean that I wanted to just bring that in because I felt that was quite important. And it is important to recognize that most of the time arguments are caused from wounding, from our scars, from our unhealed traumas. And it does, and if we notice that we are arguing more than normal, then we really need to step back and check in about what's really going on for us and be truthfully honest. I know when I first started NLP, we used to talk about the 3Ds: deceiving, deluding, and denying. And as later on in some other ones, they talk about deletion, distortion, and distraction, which are kind of lighter terms, but it's actually the truth. It is we deceive, delude, and deny ourselves the truth. So we must go back down those and check where am I deceiving myself? Where am I deluding myself? What untruth am I living? And these are the stories we carry, isn't it? Those old wounds are the stories that we've created now. And so therefore, yeah, how do we step into love? How do we step into love? Because
Heal
love
your
is the
heart, if
key.
you ask me, Cherie.
Hmm?
Heal your heart and step into proper love.
Yeah. How do we step and understand what love is, right? And
Yeah,
it's a really deep feeling when we are really truly like when you made the decision for your child, right? I bet in that moment you felt such an expansion.
it was the moment of love.
Yeah, you just kind of right. Everything doesn't matter. I love my child. I know that
Yeah,
this person, the father loves their child. Nothing can go wrong if we focus on our child, right?
and realizing we both were people pleasers anyway, we both
Yeah,
contributed to the relationship breakup,
yeah.
so might as well get on with it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's 9 minutes past 2.
Right, we'll have to finish. Yeah.
Do you have any final
Yeah,
thoughts,
I think, we should think that love doesn't have to be an end of closeness. It can be a doorway to a deeper understanding if we learn how to walk through it together, right? So it's really important that we kind of allow ourselves to recognize that maybe conflicts are the gateway to a greater you and a greater we.
Yeah, for me, guys, I'll leave you with this. Conflict isn't the enemy of love, but disconnection is. So if you stay curious, stay committed in that relationship, and also know that life is too short. You know, when my daddy died, I had questions some people may say the questions were like this, but the questions I had was, how did he maintain the love that he had until he went to the grave? Because he was a loving husband, a loving father. I never saw him angry. I saw him smiling all the time.
Mm.
And then I asked myself, how do you smile all the time? I was like, I can't do that. But then I realized that I think it must have the generation where he grew up, in that generation. Because if you truly look at the old generation, like people who have been married so many years, they tell you that the power of gratitude carries a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I live with, guys. Gratitude all the time.
Well, it was interesting. I came home and my partner had made me some lunch, and of course I hadn't brought any key, so
Yeah,
I came home thinking I hope he's at home.
yeah.
He had made lunch. So when I just before I came up here to come online, I said to him, "Oh, thank you for this lunch, but most of all, thank you for letting me in the house.
Yeah.
He laughed, and I said, and I'll give you a kiss for that.
Yeah, it's a gratitude. The gratitude, I
Yeah,
think, is more important.
yeah, you've got to show love all the time.
Yeah,
It's a constant job, and you've got to be. And those moments of gratitude, they are the little bits of deposit you put in the emotional bank that allow you to withdraw when you have a bad mood.
yeah,
Then they go up. That's okay. But you need to put lots of these in the bank so that you've got a good store when things aren't so great.
yeah.
We're only
So
human after all.
I know. So everyone, if you're watching from YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel or Facebook. We have two groups in Gossip Talk Shows and Unique Billionaire Mindset. Please do follow Shireen, and if you need coaching with Shireen, please, you can contact her through her social media, or you can contact her through www.hseia.coach, or you can contact me as well. If you're looking for love as well, go sign up on the website, and I shall see you